वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्तप्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां हरिः ओम्। सर्वेषां स्वागतं। फौण्डेशन्स् आफ् सनातन धर्म इति द्वितीयकक्षायां सर्वेषां स्वागतं। गतसप्ताहे गतशनिवासरे सनातनधर्मस्य किञ्चित् परिचयः, पूर्वपरिचयः इति वक्तव्यं। तत्र किमर्थं सनातनधर्मस्य परिचयः आवश्यकः, सनातनधर्मः इत्युक्ते कथम् अस्माभिः किञ्चित् अवगन्तुम् अवकाशः अस्ति, डेफिनिशन् इति वक्तुं शक्नुमः। अनन्तरम् अस्माकं जीवने केचन प्रश्नाः भवन्ति एव, तस्मात् तेषां प्रश्नानाम् उत्तरस्य अन्वेषणम् इत्यादि विषयेषु किञ्चित् अस्माभिः चर्चा कृता गतसप्ताहे। अन्तिमे एतत् सनातनधर्मस्य भिन्नभिन्नविषयान् कथं वयं स्वीकुर्मः, अग्रे वयं कथं गच्छामः इति एतस्मिन् विषये अपि किञ्चित् स्वरूपचिन्तनम् अस्माभिः कृतं गतसप्ताहे। So that is what we did in the last class. Before we continue, I promise that we will take some time to address some of the questions. So there were some questions. I will take some of those questions and we'll spend a little bit of time before we get into today's discussion. So there were a couple of questions which talked about, 1 minute, just give me a minute. So there were a couple of questions which was pertaining to, how do we get the kids into this whole Sanatana Dharma. The questions were like this: Namaste sir, how can I make my kid, or from where should I start her practice of Sanatana Dharma? She will be 10 soon, and even if I feel my knowledge on Sanatana Dharma is not that great, so please guide us. There is one sort of a question, and there was another one which was very similar. Very difficult to bring children into this realm, even though I love to follow and so on. So what do we do? Now all that I want to tell is, all that I want to say is, see, Sanatana Dharma, the issue lies in our ability to practice. The children will very closely follow and observe the elders, particularly the parents. So therefore, I think the first and the most important thing that we need to do is we should start practicing in whatever ways. It's impossible for us not to do anything and ask the kids to actually practice. That's not going to work. Maybe some of you are aware, but still I want to tell you this. So I think walking the talk is very, very important. So please think about it very seriously. The second thing is that Sanatana Dharma is not something which we can go to bed today evening and tomorrow morning we start and life is all Sanatana Dharma after that. All of us are aware of it. So I think the emphasis is one step at a time. We can start anywhere. That's not the issue. I think it is very important for us to continuously practice. The elders and the parents have to practice, and then the kids will get very inspired. So therefore, if you really ask me, I think importance of leading by example, importance of one step at a time, and continuous effort. It should be a very ongoing activity. Let us not worry how far we cover and so on. So that is what probably I would say. There were a couple of questions on karma, rebirth, these kinds of issues. So there was one question: how to agree on multiple lives? This whole idea of reincarnation, although we are going to talk about it in one of the future sessions, I would only give a very quick answer. How do I agree I have a heart disease? Meaning, suppose if I have a heart disease, how do I agree? Because I know nothing about the heart. I cannot read any of the ECG. I am a simple professor teaching some management here. So you do what is called Shabda Pramana. We are going to talk about it today. So on these kind of situations, there is a certain pramana. I am not going to talk more about it because that is what we are going to talk today. Or can we use our logical mind also to create some, some more understanding of this whole issue? I want to ask you a simple question. If there is only one life, I mean, to me, this one life appears quite illogical. So let me explain. I leave that thought. You don't have to buy what I say. Let us assume there is only one life. Then the first thing that it introduces two big challenges for me. First challenge is, why would a child be born in a very poor family? The child had no fault. You cannot decide my life is by throwing a dice and then depending or a Russian roulette wheel and decide now you will go to slum, you will go to CEO's fund, son or daughter, you will go here. I think I may not be able to answer it, and it looks quite illogical. The second illogical problem that I face, if there is only one life, then there is very little motivation to follow dharma because there is no cost to it. Until I die, I can do all kind of mischief and then enjoy this, this life with all its sensory pleasures and say goodbye and go. Now, these two, I am only leaving two. There are 200 such points. For want of time, I'm not going to do it. Later time, let us see if we need to conclude. All that I want to say, the third element of unfairness is you go to a village fair. In village, there are this, there's a festival, there's a Rathotsava, then there is a lot of fairs happening there. You just go to the village and what you find is there is one small little place where what they do is they spread a towel or a cloth, they keep a soap, they keep some articles, and they tell you that I will give you 3 rings for 20 rupees. You can throw the ring. If it neatly falls on the soap is yours. Now, for a simple game or a simple idea of picking that soap which is 5 meters away using rings, I am given 3 chances. For a simple idea like that. Are you telling me you will give me only 1 chance to find out who I am in my life? If I make a mistake, there is no way I can sort of, improve and try a second. Don't you think you have to give me 1 more chance? Leave alone 1,000 chance. So this single birth is a very complicated logic. I do not know how the Semitic religions they have a different concept, but to me it sounds very illogical. So I will leave it at that. So you can go through logical analysis also and come to some conclusion. Related to that, since karma determines our birth and rebirth, and what karma of ours are determined on our very first birth. Now, first of all, I want to tell you, we were not born as human beings. Even the Darwinian evolution also will say the same thing. For all we know, we would have been born, we would have been a one-cell amoeba and we would have evolved and so on. But what we need to understand is until we cross over from an animal kingdom into a human being, the karma clock will not tick. Why? Because if there is a lion and by the side of a deer, by the side of it there is a deer, the lion will, if it is not hungry, it will not touch the deer. It will not touch it. It is not like a human being. If it is a human being, if the lion had a mind of a human being, it will say, deer is here now, I may be hungry today evening 8 o'clock, this fellow may not be available, let me kill him and put him in a refrigerator. Animals cannot do it. They live by instinct. They don't have the free will to think. Karma comes only when you have free will to think. That is endowed only for a human being. So therefore, the first birth will not have a karma. I don't know whatever the first birth is. I mean, that's one kind of a thing. So the karma clock starts ticking only when you become a human being. You are endowed. God has created this special entity called human being. You are endowed with the ability to think and make choices. Second important point is this question should be actually ignored, because in an infinite series, now I'm talking about a little bit of mathematics. In an infinite series, nobody is bothered about the starting condition. It is called Anadi and Ananta. We do not know when we started and when we are going to end. I mean, it's a long journey. So when you analyze in a particular situation, if you know that you have a very long trail of future and past, the starting condition is less important and becomes less, attractive to even think about. So that's another sort of reason why we should not worry too much about our first birth, karma in our first birth and all that. We should not really worry. That is not a very useful thing. So this is about this. What is the source of our karma theory and all that? Of course, our entire Vedic corpus, Dharma Shastras, Puranas, all those are itihasas. Everywhere you'll find it is available in a certain way and so on. Okay. Then there were some questions on Sanatana Dharma itself. Is evolution an integral part of Sanatana Dharma? So since Smriti is part of Sanatana Dharma and all that, it allows for evolution of the dharmic principles with time. Dharmic principles don't evolve. Dharmic principles actually are, they are stable and they are like basic axioms. What may evolve is our understanding, the way we deploy it, the way we seem to really make use of these dharma, the principles of dharma and so on. That may keep changing and that can evolve. I don't even know whether it is evolving. It will keep changing. Sometimes it may mean evolving. Sometimes it may be devolving also. Is scientific inquiry part of Sanatana Dharma? So unlike Semitic religions which propagates believing, etc., etc. Now, our ancestors clearly knew where science will work and where it doesn't. Therefore, there are certain aspects in which scientific inquiry is very much part of it. And there are certain other aspects in which scientific inquiry is not there. Because, there are certain areas where scientific inquiry works and so on. Today's discussion on Pramana also will clarify a little bit of these ideas. Okay, so with these questions, we come to an end of this question and answer session.